Welcome to this episode of John's Journal. I'm out here by the by the cabin. The chickens saw me come out here and they think I'm going to feed them, so they're all gathered around. Anyway, this is a really, I think, probably the most exciting section of Nicholas Creswell's journal here for 1775. His most, I kind of like the scariest part of his travels. We ended the Saturday, June 24th, the last episode I did, we ended with the sentence, as they all expect to be killed in the morning. So on the heels of that, we have the next couple of days. Sunday, June 25th, 1775. Slept a little last night, over fatigued. This morning our company are setting out immediately, confident that the man is killed. So somebody disappeared and ran off into the woods. They figure he's dead, and then they want to leave without him. With much importunity prevailed on them to stay till evening, but they could not persuade any of them to go and seek the man. About sundown they all prepared for going, notwithstanding all that Mr. Tilling and I could say against it. But just as we were going aboard, saw the man come across shore to our great joy. It happened as I supposed. He lost himself in the woods and had rambled all night, and if we had left him, he must have perished very unwell. I think he's speaking of himself. He doesn't feel very well. Hello, chicken. Monday, June 26th. Proceeded up the river, past the mouth of Scioto River on the northwest, in fear of Indians, camped early. Tuesday, very stiff current all day, heavy showers, very sultry. It is a custom with our company, as soon as it begins to rain, to strip naked and secure their clothes from the wet. I attempted it twice today, but boy, that chicken is like trying to eat my leg. As soon as it begins to rain, to strip naked and secure our clothes from the wet. I have attempted it twice today, but the drops of rain are so disagreeable to my skin that it obliged me to put on my shirt. Killed a fawn. Saw a bear cross the river, but could not get a shot at her. All hands very weary, very crabbed. Wednesday. This morning, camped early in very thick fog. About 3 miles from our camp, the river was very broad and shallow, a long way from shore on that side we were on, which obliged us to keep out of sight of the shore for deeper water. Opening a point of a bar, saw 4 canoes full of Indians, about 200 yards ahead of us. So, I mean, already, you got really thick fog. They're on a huge river, and they had to stay out so far that they, can't even see the shore. So, opening a point of a bar, saw 4 canoes full of Indians about 200 yards ahead of us, upon which we pushed for the shore. But to our great surprise, saw six other canoes full of Indians betwixt us and the shore, so that we were entirely surrounded. Everything was prepared for an engagement. All our lumber and a great part of our provision were hove overboard. Out of 12 guns, 5 were rendered unfit for present use by the wet. Mine happened to be in good order. I loaded her with a 1-ounce bullet and 7 swan shot. The command of our canoe was given to me. We had only 2 guns on board fit for use, Mr. Tilling's and mine. Tom O'Brien, in the scuffle, let his fall in the river and got her filled with water. He lay down in the bottom of the canoe and began to tell his beads and prayed and howled in Irish. Brossier's gun was wet and unfit for use. He followed O'Brien's example. Jacob Nayland, a Swede, commanded a canoe, had 3 rifle guns on board. Williams, the Welshman, commanded the other with 2 muskets. We held a short and confused council wherein it was determined that Nayland should lead the van, I in the center, and Williams bring up the rear. The Indians had observed our confusion and lay on their paddle boxes 30 yards from shore. There were 23 Indians in the 6 canoes betwixt us and the shore. All of them had poles or paddles, but our fears had converted them into guns. These 6 we determined to attack as the river was shallow. If we by accident overset our canoes, we might wade ashore. The canoes above us had 21 Indians, bore down upon us. We made for the shore. I ordered Tom O'Brien to steer the canoes within 10 yards, within 10 yards of Nayland's vessel, and Bossier and Clifton to take their paddles. Clifton, though a young boy, behaved with great resolution. Tilling's countenance was not in the least changed. His behavior animated me very much. Bossier's and O'Brien lay crying in the bottom of the canoes and refused to stir. I set the muzzle of my gun to O'Brien's head and threatened to blow his brains out if he didn't immediately take up his paddle. It had the desired effect. He begged for his life, invoked St. Patrick, took his paddle and howled most horribly. Dangerous and desperate as we imagined our situation to be, I could not forbear laughing to see the condition of this poor fellow. Bossiers pretended to be in a convulsion fit. Mr. Tilling threw several canfuls of water in his face, but he refused to stir. I put a pistol bullet upon the load I already had in my gun. I was determined to give them, some of them, their quietus. I confessed I felt very uneasy. When we got within 30 yards of some of Nayland's crew hailed them, and to our great satisfaction, they told us they were friends. They had seen our confusion and laughed at us for our fears. It proved to be one Catfish, a Delaware Indian, and a party with him going to hunt. They had several squaws or Indian women with them, some of them very handsome. We gave them some salt and tobacco, which they seemed very well pleased, proceeded up the river very merrily at the expense of our cowardly companions. Bossiers brags that what he would have done had his gun been in order. O'Brien says he was not fit for death. All of them make some excuse or other to hide their cowardice. Heavy rain all afternoon. Camped 5 miles above Sandy Creek. Obliged to sleep upon a log. The ground is so wet, and still it continues to rain. That was pretty disheartening. Having so much difficulty, with the people he's got along with him, and he's got nothing but complaints about, most of the people. A few of them, he gets along with, and the other ones are either cowards or they're rascals or whatever. And maybe they were. Maybe they were. Imagine the set of people that would go into a situation like this. They're looking for uncivilization, either for the advantage or, to make a life, or because that's the only place that is fit for them. Who knows? It's hard to say. They run into this kind of situation several different times. There are, we're treated to Native Americans in these books, a lot of the journals, as a monolith. It's like, well, they're Native Americans, and there's a great variety of tribes, Indian nations, and they all have their own thing going on. So some of them are friends, some of them are neutral, some of them are enemies, and it's a very, very, difficult situation for them. They have no idea, no way of knowing whether these Native Americans they're running into are one thing or the other, and so it's a scary situation. You can see this entire tableau, though, play out, and he writes it so well, describes it so well for us. The foggy morning and the canoes, and then canoes full of Native Americans coming out of the fog. And it's like, okay, those guys are over there. Let's head for shore. And we're cut off from shore. There's more of them, between us and the shore. And, our weapons aren't serviceable, and we don't have very many of them. We're outnumbered 2 to 1. A bunch of these people are cowards in the first place. And obviously the people that we're up against are more used to this environment than we are. So the situation is looking very, very dire. Throwing their provisions overboard and excess, as he calls it, lumber, which he just means, excess goods, things that they didn't need, desperately. It's like, quick, throw it overboard, get it out of our way. It's keeping us from getting our guns loaded and all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden to find, they're friendly, no problem. All that for nothing. Your heart's, thumping and everything, and the last bit of your provisions are floating down the river. Oh well, no problem. Yeah, you can. It's odd. He goes through this, and we'll fast forward a little bit, and the idea here that he's in poor company, he's scared, he's got, odd people he's dealing with, he's out of provisions, just it goes on and on and on. And yet we'll find that he turns around and goes back out, on a different kind of adventure here a little bit later on in the book. But this adventure is finally coming to a close. So we get to the final part where it's all about, and many a trip is like this, the last few days, it's all about how do we get food? How do we get food? What we are, we're almost there and we're out of provision. So thank you for being part of Townsends Plus. Thank you for coming along on this adventure with me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.